The town on the deserted island in the middle of the sea is called Widow's Bay, and many people think that this island is cursed, which is why no one can ever leave this island. Although for many, these words are superstitions, times have changed and technology has arrived, but even the people here don't really know how deep and dark the history of these weeds is. So what is hidden in this Widow's Bay? Anyway, guys, I was talking about a great TV series recently released by Apple TV called Windows. So let's get started. And in this video, I will completely explain the Widow's Bed TV series. At the beginning of the story, we see a man boating alone at night and talking to his friend on the radio. The person on the other side of the radio is named Lonnie, who works in the control room of that port. So the man is telling his story of how he got divorced from his wife, expressing his anger. At that moment, his friend Lonnie tells him that something is coming in front of him. And then the radio starts having connection problems. There are static sounds coming and suddenly their connection is lost. So the man, who is very scared, suddenly goes outside and sees that there is really a thick fog approaching around his boat, and on the other side, many birds are also flying and trying to escape. Although there was nothing to see around there. Just thick darkness. But that darkness didn't seem natural at all. On the other hand, we see some kids sitting in the car listening to music and getting high. At that moment, the radio suddenly turned off. The entire city loses power and they can feel a mild earthquake. There was an earthquake. The mayor of the city is named Tom. He immediately enters his son Ivan's house and tries to find him, which proves that Tom is more worried about his son, but the house is empty. Ivan is not home, as I saw Anand sitting in that car with his friends, having a little fun. Anyway, the news comes that day that this is the first earthquake in 20 years and fortunately no one was injured. At the town hall, Tom sees that the power has not yet been restored and surprisingly, there is no concern among the other city officials. Some are gossiping, some are busy with their own work, but Tom's thoughts are elsewhere. Tom is the mayor of this town, and the thing is that after 3 years of trying, a reporter from the New York Times is finally coming to their town to report on this place. This place is called Widow's Bay and Tom wants tourists to come to this place to help the town's economy turn around. Widow's Bay is a type of island town in England. This small town was built on this island in the middle of the ocean, far away from mainland England. So they want to completely isolate this place and build a tourist center there. So the reporter's name is Arthur. When he arrives, he is first taken to the Historical Society, where a woman named Jerry begins to tell him the town's gruesome history. I mean, there have been many cases of cannibalism and witch hunts in this city. Even though this is a story from many years ago and not current, Tom wants the reporter to not have any negative thoughts about the city. So Tom arrives there and dismisses those incidents as superstition. However, there are some incidents that have occurred on this deserted island that many people do not want to discuss. On the other hand, the sheriff calls Tom about a man named Shep Clark going missing, but Tom doesn't pay much attention to the matter. Tom says that the man named Shep is probably drunk and asleep somewhere. However, in the meantime, an old man named Wake began to warn everyone. He claims that the earthquake, the fog, and the disappearance of the shape are all signs of some kind of terrifying evil force. According to him, whenever this mystery fog comes, disaster strikes these widows. The eyes of affected people turn white. They lose touch with reality. They ultimately suffered terrible consequences. But Tom doesn't believe any of this at all. Tom thinks these are nothing more than old superstitions. But suddenly news came that Shep had finally been found. He was admitted to the hospital with serious injuries and doctors said he probably suffered a fall. Anyway, Tom goes to see Shep. But he notices something strange. Tom said that Shep might have fallen into a trap somewhere. However, not a single drop of alcohol was found in his body. And then the most terrifying thing happened. He suddenly opened his eyes and his eyes turned completely white. In an instant, he grabbed Tom by the throat, which meant he became very aggressive. There was chaos in the hospital and after a while, Shep suddenly fell to the ground and died. This incident really scared Tom. Anyway, that night, he went to dinner with the reporter whose name was Arthur. As they had said, During the conversation, Arthur wanted to know if people born in Widow's Bay could really never leave this city. It was then that Tom noticed that the fog outside was moving unusually. Tom's only fear is for his son. She loves her son very much and she is making sure that her son Yvonne is at home. And yes, what that reporter was saying is true. No one can ever leave this place, and there are many reports that those who have tried to leave have died within a day of some unknown disease. However, suddenly the electricity in that place went out. And because of that, the people in the restaurant tried to leave, and then Tom started shouting and telling everyone not to open the door. There is something in the fog. Now, no matter how much Tom says in person that these are superstitions, but he also has fear in his heart, and he knows that there is some mystery in this city. The power came back on after a few seconds. And everyone was a little surprised to see Tom in this condition. Anyway, the reporter Arthur was not disappointed in the slightest, but rather liked the place and thought that tourists would like it. But for a few moments, we are shown a scene. There is a mysterious tunnel under the city where there is a thing called a torture chair that was used in the Middle Ages. There is a completely secret place and there is a strange sound all around. In front of that chair is a completely rusty iron door that is closed. What is on the other side of that door? Then we see Tom and Patricia together. They are going to work. Patricia is a kind of secretary for Tom and a very helpful girl who supports Tom a lot. Tom, our mayor, is very happy because a positive article has been written about those widows in the New York Times, and Tom believes that this time a lot of tourists will come to this place. On the way, they stop at a cafe. The owner of the shop has installed a new coffee machine. Although he does not have much sales there because the people of this place do not drink that type of coffee, Tom firmly believes that soon a lot of tourists will come to this place and his cafe will have a lot of sales. At that moment, Tom suddenly heard the sound of a police siren. He understands that something has happened somewhere. In fact, Wake is drinking heavily and getting drunk. In fact, Wake feels that this place is not safe at all and that if tourists come to this place, it will be a loss for them too. Especially those people who stay in hotels, meaning the place they stay in is cursed. The sheriff and Tom try to calm him down. However, White doesn't listen to anything. Instead he says that Tom is trying to modernize the city, and in doing so, he is putting all the people in danger. At the same time, White thinks Tom is a coward. Tom is very timid. He even insults Tom by saying various things, which makes Tom even angrier. He says two bad things to him, which the local people hear, which is definitely not good for a mayor, meaning it is not good for a mayor's reputation. In the evening, Tom goes to the restaurant to get food. There he met a father, meaning a pastor. Anyway, the pastor is Tom's friend, and Tom requests that no one, especially children, ring the church bells at night. I mean, someone is ringing the church bells at the right time. But this seems a little strange to the father. Anyway, Tom will get out of there later. But at that moment, some townsfolk surrounded Tom and started asking him if he was really brave, and if he was, he should spend the night in that cursed inn. The place is called Breakwater Inn and many people believe it is a cursed place. But to Tom, they are superstitions. And if it's really superstitious, then let him go there at night. In fact, there are many stories in that place. He has to be in the captain's suite there. In one of those days, there was a ship's captain who had brutally murdered his own family. That room is called his captain's suite, and since that incident, that room has been sealed and Tom has been told that he must stay in that room. Not only that, there are many other incidents like this. There is also a serial killer there. Many people say that if you go to the crawl space under the house, you will be haunted by a ghost. A type of clown named Willie the Clown is called a ghost. Tom has to go there too. He has given Tom many challenges like this. On the other hand, there is the father who Tom told him to try to see the church so that no one can ring the bell at night. He sees that the bell has been tied up in such a way that no one can ring it. So how did the bell ring? And there he finds an old letter, where it is written that if this bell rings by itself, what should you do? So Patricia drops Tom off at the Breakwater Inn where Tom will spend the night. The owner of that inn is Kat herself. But she's afraid to enter the captain's suite. He explains the complete rules to Tom and locks himself out of the inn. At the same time, Tom was also given a camera that would be proof that Tom had been to each house, meaning Tom would have to prove that he had completed those challenges, right? So everything seemed normal from the beginning. Tom kept watching an old tour video and completing the challenges that the people there had given him. Many other incidents have happened at this location. The Newry incident of 1962 was also the scene of the death of a woman who tried to escape on her wedding day and died when a window broke. So that woman was called Ugly. So Tom's challenge was to say the ugly Hortensia 3 times in front of the mirror. So Tom completes many such challenges. At first, everything seemed fine. However, gradually unusual events begin to occur. He noticed that the closed curtain had opened by itself. A strange whispering sound is coming from under the bathroom sink. Then we met a guest named William. Tom was completely surprised to see that there was another person in the inn at that moment. I mean, no one told him. So the two of them sit there, have a few drinks, talk, and tell stories about their pasts, and it's here that we learn that Tom wasn't actually born in this place, in Widow's Bay. He came here during the summer vacation to visit his father. However, he stayed here due to his father's illness. Later, they got married and settled here. On the other hand, that man William has some aggressiveness in his words. We can understand that he has a type of head. He also praises Tom about some people. He says that Tom is really a good mayor. As we have seen, no one accepts Tom as a mayor. Many people think of Tom as a coward. Otherwise, who has the courage to give such a challenge to a mayor? So anyway, after finishing the story, Tom leaves to complete his next challenge, that is, he has to enter that crawl space. So when Tom tries to do that, the torch goes out and he hears strange sounds in the darkness. And suddenly William arrives, his face not the same as before, but rather transformed into a terrifying clown. He was moving towards Tom and Tom screamed when he saw it and Tom woke up the next morning. Anyway, Tom then calls the innkeeper and the sheriff. CCTV footage is also being examined. The camera that Tom had was also tested and the strange thing is that there was no one else in that building except Tom and then the person named White who has been warning everyone from the beginning teases Tom saying that if you see it, you will finally see William. William is that Willie the Clown, the serial killer who killed many people during the time of Natsov, whom Tom saw last night. Anyway, the sheriff then sees a type of black mold on the wall of that room and he thinks that maybe this is why Tom is hallucinating something here. Although no one is willing to accept this logic, Wick thinks that this widow's curse has awakened again. No matter how much Tom says that these are superstitions, there is nothing here, but he also has a fear in his mind. He himself is not sure that what he felt last night, what he saw last night, is true or false. Then we see that the historical society is crowded with tourists and they are being shown videos about the history of widows. They were told that the city's first mayor was Richard Warren. At the same time, there was a statue of his wife, Sarah, there, and the interesting thing is that Sarah had a journal, which they still have. Anyway, Tom is very happy that the dream he had really came true. Tourists have flocked to this place. Anyway, on the way there, Tom met another girl named Marissa, who had probably lost her way. So Tom gives him a lift and takes him to the right street. He told Marissa about the various events he had organized for tourists in the past few days and invited her to them. Marissa says that she and her friends are going to Barnabas Cave for a bachelor party tonight. He also flirts with Tom lightly and Tom can come there if he wants. Tom then returned to his office. Everyone is telling Tom about their problems. But Tom's heart is set on that Marissa. Many people say the same, especially Patricia, who also says that Tom never gave anyone a lift, but on the other hand, what a nice lift he gave to a stranger. Anyway, Tom is going to meet Marissa at night. He also lied to his son, but when he goes to Barnabas' cabin, he sees that Marissa is not there. The poor thing is alone and returns from there disappointed. On the way back, he sees an old woman in the middle of the road. Tom stops the car and tries to help her. But the woman does not respond. And then we see the face of the woman, who looked a lot like a zombie, approaching Tom with that terrifying look. Tom somehow managed to escape from there in a car. but the woman had already scratched Tom's hand. On the other hand, Tom also goes to the doctor, where the doctor advises him not to participate in that swim. There will be an inaugural swim where Tom will swim in the ocean to show everyone that the ocean is safe. I mean, it's one of their rules that Tom will follow. So that's what the doctor told Tom not to go, but Tom didn't agree. Because according to the city's tradition, the mayor must take the first swim of the summer so that everyone understands that the sea is safe. But the thing is that Rosemary, at that moment, tells their colleague Tom that the people who scratch Tom are called sea hacks. According to the story, the sea hawk will follow the blood and scent of the skin of the person it scratches, finding its own prey and ultimately killing it. Although Tom doesn't believe in all this. Tom then went on his opening statement. But there in the water he sees the terrifying woman who was called the sea hack. Tom somehow manages to save his life and returns to shore, but this time the sea hack scratches his leg. Finally, Tom runs to White to find out the truth about the sea hack. Because as I know, White has kept all the information about the old history of this place, which Tom thought was crazy for so long. White says that once a sea hack identifies someone, the victim becomes much weaker as night falls and eventually the sea hack suffocates its victim to death. The only way for Tom to survive at this point is to lock himself in a place where the seagull cannot find him or until the wound heals. So Tom came back at night and saw Ivan hanging out with his friends at home. The story shows many times the various quarrels and troubles between Tom and his son. Anyway, Ivan wants to hang out with his friends at night. So somehow he gets permission from Tom, meaning he gets it. On the other hand, that night, Marisa also has a date with Tom. He finally talked to that girl and the two of them shared. Tom also likes that girl, Marisa. Tom told her many stories about himself, that he was married and his wife had died suddenly during childbirth. That means his son died when he was born. At the end of the story, Marisa also gives Tom many hints that she wants to come to Tom's house too. But Tom doesn't take that thing kindly. I mean, these types of things are not common in this place. On the other hand, that father was able to find out something. He lost his way in the jungle and reached a certain type of hut. He is an old type of well, and he hears a strange sound from the bottom of the well that scares him. On the other hand, Ivan and his friends are chatting and they also see that father. The father warns them that an evil force is roaming around. But no one believes him. On the other hand, White has also left a voice message on the landline at Tom's house. He said that the sea hack would try to get into the house anyway. There's no way Tom would open the door. Tom is just afraid. And just then, Marisa really did come to Tom's door. And that's what makes Tom doubt whether it's really Marisa or if Sea Hag has come here in the form of that girl. Tom had told Marisa that they wouldn't meet at night. Rather, they will make this plan at some point later. So how did Marisa suddenly move here and how did she know Tom's home address? Anyway, Tom doesn't open the door, so Marisa gets very upset and leaves Tom's house. On the other hand, Tom realizes that the sea hag is coming to catch Tom and Tom tries to stay awake, but he is slowly becoming a wick as he was told that the sea hag will turn its prey into a wick. Slowly, Tom begins to hallucinate. Tom sees his dead wife who seems to have returned, who in a short time changes her form and turns into a sea hag and tries to attack Tom. The sea hag would have killed Tom somehow if White had not arrived in time and shot the sea hag with a gun and the creature just vanished as if it did not exist. On the other hand, Tom is very shocked and asks White why this is happening, to which White does not have an answer either. But finally Tom receives some voice messages from Father Bryce. That father sent Tom many voice messages. Who sent some messages out of fear. He's telling Tom that he heard that. However, it is still unknown what he heard or learned. Anyway, the call ended. But at that moment, the scene shifts to another moment. We hear Sharif's voice on the radio saying that he needs help right now. I mean, we need more backup right now. He's calling other units. He doesn't understand what's going on here. He's saying that something terrible happened at Patricia's party. What happened? We have to go back 4 days to find out. So Patricia has a small library, a mobile library. While collecting books for it, she finds a strange book called Your Turn. At first, it seemed like a simple self-improvement book. It was a self-improvement book. It was about building confidence in yourself, which Patricia really didn't have. That's why he started reading that book. So Patricia goes to a reunion party where no one takes her seriously. Patricia also tries to make friends with a new girl. And while talking, Patricia brought up the topic of a notorious serial killer in that city, who once killed 4 young women. Patricia was about to say that she too was almost a victim of that murderer. Then a girl pushed him humiliatingly and left. Anyway, he goes to the washroom. But later, Patricia hears that the girls are laughing at her behind her back, and Patricia tells everyone the story of the serial killer to get attention, from whose hands he had somehow escaped many years ago. So when Patricia returns home, she sees that strange book lying on the floor and she starts reading it. There are many questions in that book that Patricia is answering. It seems as if the book is slowly controlling Patricia. At one point, the book says that if you want to attract people to you and get their attention, you should organize a big party, and from then on, Patricia becomes obsessed with planning the sunset cocktail party. That means he will also throw a party for everyone. Patricia also called her colleague Dale, whom she assigned to play DJ. Although Dale has no experience with any of this, Patricia is also inviting many people to her party again. However, many are reluctant to come to that party. And that makes Patricia even sadder. On the other hand, the sheriff noticed one thing: so many people walking around. He was looking at the CCTV footage. Hours are passing by. But Patricia won't let go of that book. That thing looked a little strange. Anyway, the night of the party comes. Rosemary notices that Patricia has completely changed. ICA and recognize him. He tries to warn Patricia, but Patricia isn't listening. Anyway, very few people came to the party. Not much has come. So, frustrated, Patricia forced the tourists who were there to join her. Shortly after, Chris and his friends and a bachelor group arrived there. Those who make Patricia a little happy also attend the party. However, Patricia has a different animosity towards Chris. Chris doesn't like Patricia at all, and they have a little laugh about Patricia. They make fun of him. Which is why Patricia directly asks him, "Is your problem with me? Why are you doing this to me?" Then he explained why Patricia kept telling him the story of the serial killer. Patricia made the story as if it were about her. But not about him, but because many of Chris's friends died in that incident, so why would Chris leave them and accept this story as Patricia's own? Anyway, after hearing this, Patricia went to the kitchen and started crying a little, and then the book told Patricia to serve everyone punch. Punch, and Patricia did so and served everyone, and after everyone drank that punch, everyone became very friendly. Everyone started dancing and singing at that party, just as Patricia had wanted. So the party was going on with great fanfare. On the other hand, that sheriff, Betsy, has also moved there, because there have been complaints of noise pollution from there. Anyway, Patricia is reading the book even during the party. The book is following what he has to do, and that book tells Patricia that he has to give some speech, and Patricia gives the speech there. Patricia says something deep there, so profound that even Rosemary herself is surprised to hear the words. But at that moment, the sheriff entered the kitchen and was surprised as soon as he entered. No wonder he got a little scared. Scattered throughout the kitchen are a bunch of chopped up crowbars, some strange pieces of wood that are used in witchcraft. That is, those that are used in witchcraft. And Patricia has a type of crown on her head made of those antlers. And seeing all this, Patricia finally came back to her senses. Rosemary had been trying to stop Patricia from the beginning. However, Patricia didn't realize that she was hallucinating the things she had been seeing for so long. And then in a terrifying scene, we see the people who came to the party suddenly walking towards the sea in a group. On the other hand, the book Patricia had been reading for so long was actually a book on witchcraft. Whatever had been hallucinating Patricia for so long. However, those people suddenly seem to be walking towards the sea under some kind of control, and if they are not stopped, they will drown. The sheriff is trying to stop the killing, but he's calling for backup because of how many people he can stop. So that's the reason we couldn't hear the sheriff's radio voice calling for more police a little while ago. Anyway, Patricia realizes that the only way to stop those people is to burn that book. But Patricia can't throw that book into the fire. That book seems to be stuck to his hand. Although, when the book is finally held in front of the fire, it burns and those people come out of their addiction, and Chris himself initially blames Patricia for having mixed drugs in their drinks, which is why such an incident happened. Anyway, Patricia has a mental breakdown and she is returning home. At that moment, he met Tom on the street. Tom and Mike are in the car and they are going with the father to meet Father Bryce, the one who received the voice message. When they reach the church, they find the father's office in a complete mess. The important documents that were there have been burned and Father Bryce has committed suicide. Then we see an incident. We don't know where or when it happened, but we see a strange man crawling out of the snow and picking up some black mushrooms and starting to eat them. It looked like the man was very hungry. But why and what connection this has to the whole story, I'll find out by reading. On the other hand, Mayor Tom Say announced at our town hall that a curfew will be imposed in the entire city starting tonight. Many are surprised that today is the night of the long-awaited fireworks festival. Because there will be many events in the city, right? That's why everyone is asking him why he suddenly made such a decision. At the same time, they will also have to work overtime. On the other hand, Tom's son Ivan will also be detained in Tom's office. Ivan also asks his father if he is Father Bryce, and if he is really dead, because Ivan saw the same father who was warning them last night. Anyway, Tom tells his son that he will discuss all this later. Then Tom, Mike, and Patricia. They went to the father's office and started searching. They realized that Brave wanted to burn some important papers before he died. Although Mike somehow managed to save at least one paper from the fire. On the other hand, Tom also learned that Bryce had called Tom many times before he died. And that another unknown number had also called him many times. So they meet the person on that unknown number whose name is Todd and he is Patricia's old school friend, who currently sells various narcotics. So they found some black mushrooms from that father, a type of mushroom that is shown in that talk, which the tarot saw and said was called torside. In other words, this mushroom gives you the ability to see the real truth. He says that eating this mushroom opens a person's third eye. Third eye. But then again, it also has many terrible aspects. Tor knows that a friend of his never recovered from eating this mushroom and kept drawing only one handprint, which really doesn't make sense. So they plan to try that mushroom. But who will eat that mushroom? So it is decided that the white one will eat it first. But their luck is so bad that Tom accidentally drinks the mushroom through his tea, and from then on, Tom's strange mental journey begins, and at this moment, Tom and we, the audience, are unable to understand which is real and which is fake. So the fireworks show has been cancelled, which is why the townspeople are angry. Tom is unable to handle his own office, but whenever he returns to a normal state, he asks where his son is. As I know, Tom is very worried about his own son. By the way, his son has secretly left the office to hang out with his friends. They park their car in front of the house of the infamous serial killer in the city, get drunk, and plan to enter that house. And this is the serial killer from whose hands Patricia was able to escape many years ago. The one Patricia has so many nightmares about. We see the sheriff asking Tom the reason for the curfew. But Tom can't answer correctly. On the other hand, Patricia has also been captured by the sheriff. Because as I saw, Patricia had organized a type of party from which a big incident had occurred. But on the other hand, Wykabar is trying to solve that case. He takes the torn piece of paper he found from Father Bryce's house to the museum, and Gary, who is there, tells him that it is part of the diary of the wife of the city's first mayor, Richard Warren. The piece of paper was found by his wife. Remember I told you a while ago that Sarah, the wife of the city's first mayor, Richard Warren, used to write a journal. That's a part of that journal. In her diary, Sarah wrote that her husband had a very violent nature and was probably cursed. The most mysterious thing was the mysterious line that the curse of that island was hidden inside the cylinder that her husband always kept around his neck. And after learning this information, Wyke suggested that the grave of Richard Warren should be found, because that cylinder can be found in Richard's grave. Tom, on the other hand, is so intoxicated right now that he ate the black mushroom that it's hard to tell which is real and which is fake. Tom is worried about his son, but Patricia tied his hands so that Tom wouldn't poke out again. Anyway, Tom's son, like I said, is making fun of his friends. They are trying to break into the serial killer's house, so Ivan goes there to do that job. However, he cannot do that because the sheriff arrives there in time. Ivan then goes back home. Tom scolds him for not listening to him. Why did he leave that office and go meet his friends? And that's when Tom and his son got into trouble. Ivan tells him that Tom is repeatedly trying to control him. He's ruining Ivan's life while trying to be a good mayor. Ivan thinks so. And then, because of that mushroom, an old, suppressed memory awakened inside Tom. This is the incident of the day when Tom tried to leave this place with his wife and his pregnant wife Lauren. Widows tried to leave the bay. However, shortly after boarding the boat, his wife Lauren suddenly went blind and collapsed in panic. They were forced to return to that island again. Then Ivan was born, which was completely normal. But his wife could never be normal. And after such a tragic event, Tom had become a little more concerned about his own son. Anyway, Tom is feeling pretty weak inside, vomiting repeatedly, obviously under the influence of the mushrooms. While leaning against the bathroom, he suddenly heard a thick static-filled voice. It was as if someone was trying to tell him something, even though the words were unclear. And when Tom raised his head, he saw that there was thick darkness all around, and from within that darkness, it seemed as if someone was trying to say something to Tom. So, something very strange is happening in Windows Bay, which you have also understood. But why? And to know all this, we have to go all the way back in music to where it all began. The year was September 1702. A young woman named Sarah has crossed the sea to Widow's Bay to marry Richard Warren. She writes in her diary that her only hope is that her future husband be a kind and good man. This is the Sarah whose journal fragment we found at the father's house. Finally, he arrives at Widow's Bay and, naturally, he hears Richard's praise from everyone's lips. Collins, the local priest, said that Richard would use his own special vows at their wedding. So the marriage took place peacefully. Richard later introduced Sarah to his own 5 children and went about his business. Sarah didn't even know that Richard had been married before and had so many children. And on the first night, Sarah notices something strange. Hearing a noise, Sarah came downstairs and saw Richard sitting alone, eating a mysterious black mushroom. Richard's eyes look like he's in another world. After a while though, he returns to normal and tells Sarah to leave him alone. So the days are passing like this and everything is becoming unusual. Richard doesn't want to have a normal relationship with his wife. He doesn't talk much about himself. On the other hand, a type of plague has spread in the city. Many people are dying for unknown reasons. One night, they overhear Richard discussing the plague with a man, and suddenly the situation changes. Richard beats the man to death, and the next day, Sarah finds the man with the guest stick in the secret basement of the house. Trembling with fear, Sarah goes to the priest Collins who told Sarah to come to him in times of danger. There, she hears even more terrifying truths. The priest claims that Richard has made a pact with the devil, that a plague has spread in this place, that people are mysteriously disappearing, and that Richard's ex-wife is also missing. Richard is being blamed for everything and they are looking to Sarah for help. Their plan is to leave the door of the house open one night so that people can enter and kill Richard. That evening, during dinner, Sarah suddenly brought up the topic of those people's disappearance in front of Richard, which makes Richard a little suspicious about who Sarah learned about these things from. Late at night, a man suddenly enters the house and tries to stab Richard while he is sleeping, but incredibly, Richard does not die. Instead he stands up as if nothing happened, and that's when Sarah realizes that this guy is no ordinary person. Whatever Richard has ordered him to do, he must ensure that Sarah does not leave the house, and at the same time, Richard will also find the person who is trying to kill her. The next morning, Sarah finds that she has been locked inside the house so that she cannot leave. Finally, he tries to get out through the basement. He goes to the priest along that path and says that Richard is not human and that he must be stopped. This means that Sarah thinks that Richard did not make a deal with the devil or the devil, but rather that he himself is the devil. And the funny thing is that Sarah didn't leave the same type of room that took the basement route. In front of that quota, Father Brias couldn't hear a single sound at this time. Anyway, Richard has to be stopped and the priest comes up with a new plan. Richard's drinks will be poisoned during dinner, and if Sarah can do it, they will help Sarah and the children in the place escape from Widow's Bay. That night, Sarah writes an important piece of information in her diary. The secret of the island's curse is hidden in the locket hanging around Richard's neck or the cylinder that was mentioned, and she is also afraid that Richard will kill her one day, but unfortunately, Richard sees her. While Sarah was writing in that diary, she was writing journals and he wants to read them. However, at night, Sarah tries to poison Richard and feed him. But Richard understands and that's where the trouble starts. Richard then tries to kill Sarah by slitting her throat. And just then, Richard's son hit Richard on the head with a wooden stick, saving Sarah. Her son says that his father killed his mother. Seizing the opportunity, Sarah tries to escape from that place with all the children. They reach the seashore. But by then the boat that was waiting for them had left. They have no way. Forced to board a small boat, they prepare to escape from there. And at that moment, a bloody, sick woman comes asking for help, behaving like a zombie. He has become quite violent, trying to attack. However, Sarah somehow manages to throw him into the water and tries to escape from the island by boat with the children. On the other hand, the priest Collins and his men decide to bury Richard alive. From inside the grave, Richard shouts, "I made a deal with the devil, not for me, but for you. Leave me alone, or something terrible will happen. I will not die, I cannot die." But no one believes him. Everyone says that Sarah and the children have already left the island, but Richard says that they will not be able to leave the island, but they will all die. No matter what, Richard is not heard from. He is buried alive. And now, in the present tense, remember what White decided to dig up Richard's grave, and that's what he does. Finally, they find the coffin underground containing Richard Warren. And then to find out, you have to watch the second part of this video. This video will get much bigger. So I decided to make the entire series into 2 parts. Although it was made in about 10 episodes. So obviously making a video is a lot of pressure. So I hope you understand. So, all the mysteries in the field can be discussed in the second part. I'm leaving the first episode video here for now. So don't forget to let me know how you feel about these videos and don't forget to let me know how you feel about my video. If you like it, you can like it. If you want, you can subscribe to the channel and don't forget to follow me on social media. The links to which are in the description. So I'll see you there. Give me a till, stay well, be careful, take care and bye.